Hello class, this is your teacher Mr. McDougall with your next tutorial in Photoshop. We are still just getting started. We're going to learn about the most basic concept of how to edit things in Photoshop, and that is layers and adjustment layers, specifically on how to change certain things. But layers is the key to all the stuff you're going to do in Photoshop. This is still classwork, so you have exercise files to download. I will walk you through the downloading process a few more times up until our first actual project, and then I'll let you download the photos on your own. But let's continue walking through them as you get used to the process and using these computers. So you'll see your exercise files right here. Yours might be on the top right, but let's click on it and download them. So you have a lot of files to work with, but typically if there's a lot of files, it means we're not editing that much to them. So it's going to be very simple things that we're going to do with these. So let's go to these three dots, click on them, click on Open in New Window, and then now you'll see you have this button to download the files. So now click on it to download them, and it will appear in your Downloads folder momentarily. So I will close this for right now. Here we go. So now let's extract them, put them in a project folder, and then we can open them up in Photoshop. So let's go to our Finder, the little Finder man right here. Go to your Downloads. Make sure that your window is open. If yours looks like this, if any of yours look like this where you don't see things, it's just these little arrows right here. You can click these arrows to expand these folder locations. So let's go to Downloads. You'll see here it is right here, the exercise files for adjustment layers. Remember, this zip folder is useless, so we need to double click on it to show the actual exercise files, which will be at the top. So once you double click on it to extract it, you'll have the zip folder, which is no longer needed, and now we have this one, which is what we want, the blue exercise files. So this one, the zip folder, you can right click and move to trash. It's no longer necessary. This one has all the exercise files in it that we want. So first now we need to move it into a folder on our Google Drive, because right now it's saved in our Downloads folder, but it's stuck on the computer. So let's open up our Google Drive. Go to the Finder window again and right click and go to New Finder window. This will open up a second one, so now we can transfer things back and forth. Go to your Google Cloud, My Drive, and go to the Intro to Graphics folder that we set up in the first day. Intro to Graphics, here's the one from yesterday, the previous lesson, the Photoshop workspace. Let's make one for today. New folder. This one is U502, Adjustment Layers. So this is where we will put our exercise files. Open this up and move this in right here. Yes. So now the exercise files are safe in our Google Drive and not stuck on the computer anymore. So I open up here, I could see all of my files ready to go. So that is the download process every single time. Again, I will walk you through it a couple more times, and then I'll stop and I'll just jump right into opening up in Photoshop. So let's get to that part now. Let's open Photoshop. So click on Photoshop down here at the bottom. It will jump up and down for a minute as it loads. It'll be all excited that I got picked. It might take just a minute like mine is to open up, but that's totally fine. It's got a lot of things to process, so it might take a second. No worries. So remember, yours might open up either to this home page or it might open up to just this blank page right here. Either way, it doesn't matter. You can click on the home or this PS icon to go back and forth. Just like I mentioned previously, I recommend having this workspace as big as you possibly can. If you have to make it smaller for whatever reason to fit the Photoshop and my tutorial on your screen, that's okay, but try to maximize your space on this. Also, try to make sure that this panel is open. If you have yours like this, that is also fine, because I get that you're trying to save space. However, it's easier if you have these panels open because you'll have to then click on them to open them individually. If you click these little arrows, the whole thing stays open. We especially need this one to be open, the layers one. That's what we're focusing on today, and 95% of your editing involves layers. So let me show you how that works. Let me show you another way to open the files as well. In the previous lesson, I showed you the most common ways by going up to File and Open, or Command O. The other way to do it, that'll be a little bit faster as well, if you have lots of files that you're working with. If you go to, I'm going to close my Downloads folder now. if you go to your exercise file folder, I can see all my exercise files right here. I can grab all of them if I click and hold my mouse and select every single one of them like that. Now if I just drag and drop them in Photoshop, they will also open up that way. So now you can see it's loading. It will open up each file individually in Photoshop right here. I can see I have all of these open. Here's all the exercise files we're going to play with. Perfect. Another thing you'll notice when you have a lot of files, especially if your window's not maximized, is you may not be able to see all of them on there. We're going to start with the file that's called auto, but I don't see it up here at the top because there's not enough room for it. If you ever have too many files that you can't see all of them, come over here to these double arrows and it gives you a list of all the files that are currently open. So then you could jump straight to each one. So if I want to jump to levels 2 or BNO1, BNW1, something like that, that's how you can jump across. So if you ever see it where it doesn't fit, just go to these arrows right here. Another thing I like to give you guys troubleshooting stuff at the beginning, some advice in case things get stuck, is with these windows, with opening and closing all these windows and these menu panels, sometimes you might accidentally click and start moving stuff. If I take this properties one and now I moved it over here, oops. Or now I took my toolbar and now I moved it here. This might cause you a little bit of trouble as you're trying to move things back and you may not know what just happened. That's okay as well. If this ever happens, you can always just reset your window. So you just have to go up to the top where it says Window, Workspace. By default, yours should already be on this Essentials one. So now just make sure that it is, and then if it looks all funky still, go down to Reset Essentials. That puts everything back to normal, exactly the way it was. So if you ever mess up your window like that, it's no big deal. Just go to Window, Workspace, Reset right there, and it puts it all back. All right, let's start with Auto 01. So jump to this one that says Auto 01 right here. Every photo or image that we open will automatically start with this right here. It will say background and it will be locked. The reason for that is because we don't want to mess around with the background layer. If we make any permanent changes to it, it will be called what we call destructive editing, and that is editing that can't be undone. We always want to edit non-destructively. One way to do that is to create copies of the layer or duplicate layers. So the way we can do that, let me show you the various ways you can do that. On this layer, right click on it, and you can go to duplicate layer. It'll pop up, just leave it as is and click OK. Now we have a background copy. So we have two layers, the original background, and now we have a copy that's stacked on top of it. So now we're going to make two more copies. The shortcut to duplicate a layer is Command and then J, as in jelly. So if I hold Command and then J on my keyboard, I made copy number 2. Let's do it one more time. Either right click or use Command J to make one more copy. I'm going to do the shortcut Command J. So now I have 3 copies of the background. And these are my layers so far. One thing that you'll need to make a habit of as well is renaming your layers, because once you have a lot of layers and elements on here, you might have 10 or more at a time. It's confusing if they all just say the same word or if they say copy over and over again, because you won't know which is which. So we're going to rename some of these. First, we're going to add a couple of effects. Let's go to this top layer. Click on the top layer right here, background copy 3, and then go up to the top where it says Image. Click on Image, and then click on this one that says Auto Tone. Click Auto Tone. You'll see the image change a little bit. So let's rename that layer to Auto Tone, since I just did that. To rename a layer, you can just double click on the text. So where it says background copy 3, just double click on the text and it allows you to start changing the text. So this one's Auto Tone. Perfect. Let's do the same thing with the next one. Let's go to this next one and let's go up to Image again. Image. Let's do these 3 right here. This one's going to be Auto Contrast. Click Auto Contrast, and then I'm going to change the name of that one as well. Auto Contrast. And then lastly, with this last copy right here, go up to Image, and then Auto Color. Perfect. And let's rename it one last time to Auto Color. Now I have layers, and they're all organized, and I know which one is which as they're all stacked on top of each other. One thing you may have just noticed when I did that, when I did the auto tone, the image changed. It had that effect on it. But when I did contrast and color, I didn't see any kind of visual change on here, and that is because of layer order. Layer order is, this is the top, and this is the bottom, and we're only seeing what's on top. We're only seeing straight down. So the way you can think about that is if you have papers stacked right here. So I have these papers. These are all stacked on top of each other. Let's say this is my background and here's my 3 copies stacked on top of each other. If I have them all directly stacked on top of each other, you can only see the top layer. I can only see the one that's purple. But I can reshuffle the layer order. If I take this paper and I move it down and I shuffle the order, now I'm seeing this one, the one that's on top. So each layer is like you're looking straight down at a stack and you're only seeing the top one. So let me go back to that again, minimize that for a second. So right now I'm only seeing this top one, but I can readjust or rearrange the layer order. If I take the contrast, if I click and hold, I can drag it up. See the blue line? Now I'm going to move it on top. So now auto contrast is on top, so now that's the one I'm seeing. Or maybe I want auto color to be on top. So as you shuffle the layer order, now I'm seeing this specific layer right here. I'm seeing the auto color because this is on top, just like I did with the piece of paper. You can also temporarily hide layers with this eyeball icon. It says toggles the visibility. If I click this, the eyeball turns off, and now that layer is still there, but it's being hidden, so I can't see it. Same thing with these. If I turn these all off, they're all being hidden, and now I'm only seeing my original one. As I click the eyeballs, they turn back on. Now I'm seeing the auto tone, the auto contrast, and the auto color. So take whichever one you want and rearrange it so your favorite one is on top. Maybe the tone, the color, the contrast, either one. Just rearrange it so your favorite one is on top. But that is how layers work in general. Okay? All right, so now let's move on to another way we can stack layers around. Let's go to layer 01 right over here. We're going to do these next one. Layers 01, 2, 3, and 4. Let's go to layer 01. We're going to stack 2, 3, and 4 right on top of this one. So let me show you the different ways you can move and adjust layers around. I went over it briefly in the last one, but we're going to do it a lot, so let me go over it again. Let's start with layer 2. We're going to move this one first. So the first way you can do it is to select the whole thing, and that's with the shortcut Command A. If I hold Command and I hit A, I can see that I have these marching ants around the whole thing. That means this is being selected, and Command A selects all of it, so the whole thing is selected. Now I'm going to copy it with Command C, hold Command and then C, like cat. Come back over to layer 1, Command V to paste. Now I've pasted it, so here's my new layer on top of the background. And remember, I can hide these if I want. So now with my Move tool, which it should be on default, it should be the Move tool, I can move these over and move them around. I'm going to move it right here. You'll also notice these pink lines that are popping up. This helps guide you to make sure you're in the center. Right there is the exact center of the photo, so that kind of helps you stay in a specific line for organization. Let's put it right off to the side for right now because I'm going to bring in the other ones. Let's go to layer 03 and let's bring this one in. So if you don't want to copy paste it, the other thing you can do is just click and drag the photo, click and hold your mouse to drag the photo up here, and then we'll drop it in the image. So watch this. Click and hold my mouse, I'm clicking and holding, I'm dragging up here, hover over layer 1, still holding my mouse, not letting go, and then I'm going to come down here and I'm going to let go of my mouse. And it drops it right in there, just like that. So that's another way if you don't want to select and copy the whole thing. Now I can adjust this. If I move it down, it lines up perfectly. Maybe move it right there. But these pink guidelines help me know that that is in the right spot right there. All right, last one. We're going to bring in 04. This one will be slightly different, but you can move it either way. Either of the two ways I just showed you. Either select all, copy paste, or drag and drop it the way I just did. I will do the copy paste one, but feel free to use either one. So I'll hold Command and then A, select all, Command C to copy. Let's go to layer 1, Command V to paste. One thing you'll notice about this one, it's a lot bigger. Don't adjust it just yet. There's something we need to do first. So remember, you can zoom in and out. If you hold Option and scroll on your mouse, you could zoom in. Or if you're using the trackpad, you can just pinch and zoom to move around as needed. And now I can move this around. I can see that it's this big right here where these blue lines are. However, I can't change the size yet. If you're ever looking at this and you're trying to figure out how to change the size, you have to go over here to Show Transform Controls. If you turn that on, you see this option right here. Now these dots will allow me to adjust the size of it. Before we adjust the size of it, we're going to add a certain filter to it. If I adjust the size of it first, let me show you what happens. So don't do this part. Let me show you what happens. If I change the size like this and crush it down, and I move it, let's say I move it here, and accidentally make it too small, I go, oops, I made that too small. Let me fix it. Let me go up bigger again. You can see what happens when I made it bigger. Now it's all weird and pixelated. If I zoom in, it looks all blocky like that. Kind of looks like Minecraft. That's not what we want. We don't want to do that. I want to protect it from having that happen. What I just did is I crushed the pixel resolution, and now it's all small. But remember, the shortcut that's your best friend in case you make a mistake like that is Command Z. So I'm going to hit Command Z, Command Z. Now it's back to exactly the way it was. It's like it never happened. Okay, before we adjust the size, we are going to convert this into a smart object. So come over here to layer 3, which is the tie one. I'm going to right click on it, and I'm going to go to convert to smart object right here. Click on that. You'll see this little icon changed. What smart object does, we'll be using this frequently, is it protects the layer. It puts this protective shell or coating around the layer essentially. So if I add things to it, it's not permanent. It won't cause any permanent damage. So now if I shrink it, let's say I shrink it again, all the way down like that, shrink, and I decide to fix it again, I can move this up, and it didn't lose the resolution. It didn't get all weird and pixelated. So now I can adjust it to fit. If I line it up right there, I can adjust it so it's the same size as the others. Right about there. Good. Perfect. Excellent. So now I'm adjusting it to fit right there. And again, we can move these around. Remember, layer order is what's important. This layer is on top, this layer is next, and then this one's on the bottom. So as I move them, you can see which one is on the very top. If I change the order around, now layer 1 is on the top. Just like that. So layer order is key. The other thing that is very helpful in the future that I want you to be aware of is this auto select feature right here. If you have this auto select feature on, what it does is it assumes the layer that you want and it grabs that one. So if I come over here, I can grab this one now. Or I can just move over and grab this one, thanks to the auto select. If that's turned off, it only grabs the layer you have highlighted. So right now I have layer 1 highlighted, which is this one. I can drag and drop. And if I try to move this one over here, if I click and hold, it's still just doing layer number 1 because that's the one that's highlighted and auto select is turned off. So you can keep this on or turn it off from time to time. There will be times when I'll suggest that you turn this off because sometimes it can get frustrating. If you have two layers that are directly stacked on top of each other and you're trying to grab one, there's a lot of times where this keeps grabbing the wrong one and it gets frustrating. So there will be times you can turn this off. But for right now, just be aware of what it does. So now we've stacked these layers on top of each other. So that's looking good. All right, now let's talk about adjustment layers. So now let's jump to levels 01. Go to this one right here, this guitar one, levels 01, and we'll move on. Again, pause this video at any time if you have to. The whole point of these videos is for you to be able to watch at your own pace, slow it down or speed it up as necessary, and pause whenever you need to in case there's something you don't understand. So we're going to go to levels 01, and now we're going to talk about adjustment layers. So adjustment layer allows me to make a change in the photo if I want to edit the shadows or the highlights or the colors. However, it again edits non-destructively, so I don't do any permanent damage to the photo. So our adjustment layers are in two places. You can go here to where it says adjustments, and you'll see a whole list of them right there. Or you can come down here to this little half circle icon. If I click this little half circle, you'll see the same list right here. Hue, saturation, vibrance, curves, levels, all that fun stuff. So we're going to pick the levels one. So either pick this levels or pick this levels. They take you to the same thing. What it will do is it will create a new layer right here. See how this one is solely a levels layer. If your window is collapsed like this, you'll see my levels layer, but in order to adjust it, you need to open this properties tab right here to see this. If your window is already expanded, you'll already see this under the properties tab right here. This is called a histogram. This just shows us the light and shadows of a photo. We're going to make this a little bit more contrasty by dragging these two sliders right here, this one and this one. So let's take our black one right here, and we're going to drag it in a little bit to the right. Not too far. If you go too far, it starts to do that, make it too dark. So we're not going to do that. We're just going to drag it a little bit Let's drag it in just to the edge of this little white line right there. That looks good. And let's do the same thing with this side. Take this white one and drag it in just a little bit. Let's say right about there. You may not notice anything, but if you turn this levels adjustment on and off, you can see we actually did quite a bit. We made it a little more contrasty. So this is the original, which now that you look at it, looked cool at first, but now it looks kind of flat. But with that simple levels adjustment, it looks a little bit more dynamic now. The whites are a little bit brighter and the shadows are a little bit darker. So that's one way we can adjust the levels. And again, we edited non-destructively. The background layer is totally fine. Everything's right here. If I ever want to delete this layer, I can just hide it, or I can take this layer and drop it in the trash can, and now it's gone. Let me do Command Z to bring it back. But that's how we can edit this in a way that is not destructive to the background. Let's do the same thing with Levels 02. Do the same thing on this one. Add a levels adjustment layer. So either from right here, adjustment, levels, and let's just pinch these outside sliders just a little bit. Bring this guy in, make it a little darker, and we're going to bring this guy in to make it a little bit brighter. Ta-da! Simple stuff. Click these little arrows. You can see the before and after. Doesn't seem like a lot, but actually you can see that it is quite a lot. Well done. All right, next let's play with some more adjustment layers. All these ones we're playing with are various adjustment layers so you can see what they do. Let's go to Vibrance 01. And you can see it's right there. I can't see the whole thing, so remember, just click these double arrows. I can go down and find it right there. Let's go to Vibrance 01. We're going to use Vibrance. If you remember, if you were here in the previous trimester, we talked about Lightroom Classic. We know what Vibrance is. We can do it as well in Photoshop. Let's go to our adjustments right here, and let's do Vibrance. Click on Vibrance. This one looks different. This one's just a slider for the vibrance and the saturation. So if I increase the vibrance, it makes it more colorful, or if I take it down, it makes it less colorful, and you can see how it's being affected on the image. So for this one, let's make it a little bit more colorful. I can double click to reset. Let's just add it up because it's colorful, but it's a little dull and a little gray. Let's make it a little more colorful. Dragging this up. That looks better. I like that. And again, this is on its own layer. So I didn't actually change the image. I just changed it on this layer. We're going to do the same thing on Vibrance 02, except we're going to take the color away. Let's go to Vibrance 02. Let's go to an adjustment layer. You can go down here, or as I mentioned, go up here to adjustments and look for Vibrance right there. Same thing. Let's suck the color out of this one. Take it down. This one's super colorful. So not all the way to black and white, but let's just drag it all the way down. Right about there. Perfect. Great work. Let's go to the hue and saturation ones next. Let's jump in our arrows. Let's jump to hue 01. Go to this one that says hue 01. Perfect. So you have this awesome red sweater. Looks like it might be for sale on Amazon, but maybe I don't want it in red. Maybe I want other options. So let's do that. Let's go to our adjustment layers again. We're going to practice with a new one. We're going to do hue and saturation right here. Talking about hue and colors. So with this one, we can change the color, aka the hue, by adjusting this slider right here. So if I don't want this in red, let's say I'm going to slide it. I want it in pink. Now it's pink. Or I can have it in purple or blue or teal. I can slide it this way and change the color completely. So adjust the slider and pick a new color for this sweater. And aka, as I mentioned, this is how they do it in Amazon. If you're ever doing online shopping and you see, oh, I have this, they have this in red, and they say, what other colors do you have? Do you want it in yellow? Do you want it in green? They just do this. They just slap this adjustment layer on it, and boom, they have it in a totally different color. So change the color of the sweater to whatever color that you want. And you guessed it, we're going to do the same thing with hue 02. Go to hue 02, do the same thing, and adjust the color of these shoes. Let's go to our adjustments. I'll go back and forth so you can see the two different areas. Adjustments, hue, saturation, and let's change these. Maybe I don't want them in yellow. Maybe I want them in this cool red purple, or this green and pink. That's cool. I like that one. As always, these are on their own layers, so no actual damage has been done. The hue and saturation is on its own layer, so I can always delete it and start over if I want to change my mind. Okay, couple left, almost done. Next, we're going to go to Selective 01, right here, this one. So this one, we're going to add a hue and saturation adjustment. However, I don't want to change all the colors like you saw in the shoe. In the shoe one, if I change the hue slider, all the colors are changing. But let's not do that with this one. For this one, I only want you to change the yellow. So the way we're going to do that is go to our hue and saturation slider again, right here. This one, by default, if I slide this, all the colors are changing, as you can see. And that is because of this one, where it says master. We're going to change it from master to a specific color. If I click on this, I can allow it to only change these specific colors. So if I click yellow, it's only now going to change what it determines are yellow pixels in the image. So now if I slide it, it's only affecting the yellow drop. So now change this slider so only the yellow one is changed to a completely new color. So pick a new color for the yellow. Something else like orange or pink or blue. There's already a blue, so let's do green. Let's say green. I like green. Just like that. Same thing for this one, Selective O2. I want you to add a hue and saturation slider, but then only change the green trash can. Don't change all the trash cans or all the colors, just change the green one. Adjustments, hue and saturation, masters, green. So now it's only affecting the green one. See that? Not affecting the blue, yellow, or the red. Perfect. Now it's brown. I like it. Okay. Last couple exercise files, and then we'll be done. Next, let's go to B&W 01. B&W stands for black and white. We're going to make these images black and white and monochrome. So let's go to our adjustments. This one we're going to choose black and white right here. So what it does, as you can guess, obviously, it turns the image black and white on its own layer right here. However, even though it's black and white, we can still adjust the dynamics of it because it looks a little flat right now. But let's make it a little sharper with darker shadows and brighter highlights. Those colors are still there. If I hide this, this yellow is still here and this blue is still here, which I can adjust here. You see these sliders? If I adjust the yellow, I can make the yellow brighter or darker. So maybe anything that's yellow I want to make brighter. Anything that's blue I want to make darker or something like that. You can adjust the reds as well. Maybe I want to go something like that. Let's see. So all of these colors are still present right here. And we can adjust it. So now it looks a little bit better than just being that flat gray like it was before. So again, black and white filter, but the colors are always still there, able to be adjusted. So adjust it accordingly, however you like. If you want to make it black like that or black and white, that looks pretty cool. For our last one, we'll be doing black and white again, but we're going to add one extra step. So we have this basketball right here, and we're going to slap a black and white adjustment layer on it as also. Adjustments. And we're going to go to the black and white option. Nope, not that one. Sometimes this little menu gets in the way, which can be frustrating. Black and white. There it is. So instead of just leaving it as black and white, we're also able to do monochrome, which we talked about in the first trimester of photography, which means one color. It does mean black and white, but we can also just make it one solid color across the board. And that you can go to by clicking this little tint box right here. See where it says tint? Click this little box. And by default, it does this brown sepia color, but we can change that too. Let's click this little square right here. So see where this little brown tan square is? Click that to bring up this color picker. And you can choose whatever color you want. You can slide it right here, you can make it blue. I can slide up in these colors however much I want, and I can adjust it right here as well. Let's say I want this blue. And just like we did before, these colors are still present. If I click this and hide it, the blue, the purple, the white, these colors are all still here. If I adjust these, I can still adjust the intensity of those colors underneath the layer where it is. So maybe right here, it's magenta. You can still mess around with the color in general. So let's make it monochrome. So it's all one solid shades of blue. Just like that. Excellent. Well done. So since these are exercise files, just like we did before, I want you to take screenshots of all of these exercise files and turn them in. So remember on the Mac, the shortcut is to take a screenshot of your entire window. Command-Shift-4 and then spacebar. That brings up this little camera. So now I can take a photo of a specific window. If I just click on it, it takes a screenshot of my entire Photoshop workspace, just like that. So do that for every single one of these exercise files. Go through each one that you edited, take a screenshot of this one, screenshot of this one, every single one, screenshots of all of them, and that's what you'll be turning into today's practice right here. Okay? So when we're doing classwork, take your screenshots. When you close everything, it will ask you if you want to save. You do not need to save any of these right now. So if I close these files, it will say, hey, do you want to save? That's okay. You can click don't save. We're just doing simple edits to this, but make sure you take your screenshots first. Okay? Have fun and let me know if you have any questions.